Peace, man. Hotel. Peace to the free world. Peace and love and blessings to all my brothers and sisters out there. Today, man. Today is Thursday, March the 26th. It's about 2:40 something at 11 time. I just got done listening to another podcast about healing, man, and it just resonated with me so much about just dealing with the man who I was versus the man that I'm becoming. And I know that there's many other brothers out there dealing with the same struggle while living life at the same time. I want to resonate with y'all for a second. Like, my name is Cordero, but I go by Ra. I'm Ra specifically. It's a backstory behind that, but we'll eventually get to that. But what I want to talk about is, I've been living in survival mode for a long time, way before I even knew what it was. I heard people in relationships and friendships, even people that I've, communicated with, that brung out the same thing and pointed out the same thing to me about, just identifying, what is, the hypertension, hypervigilance. And so because I wasn't familiar with it, it played a toll invisibly on my life and the relationship. So, and even before I really even understood what, it meant by playing victim or creating a victim within your own space, that mindset, I'm definitely one that was doing that. Just a part along the way. I could say I lost myself, but it was more of the person that I was at that moment that I lost. And I want to make you guys familiar with me. I grew up in chaos, watching my uncles fight. I grew up with my grandmother. My mama died at an early age. So besides foster care, like, I seen a lot of chaos, relationship chaos, family chaos. And as a kid, I was so familiar with it that, I started thinking that a lot of the things that I was experiencing from the people that were supposed to love me was actually, love. So, I started to reflect and mimic a lot of this stuff in my own relationships and friendship and with family members. So, in a way, you could say I kept the generational curse going, or, however you want to, whatever your perspective is, I want to identify with you guys. For a long time, out of trauma, I was codependent mentally, emotionally, and I bled on other people. And, not knowing or being able to identify any of the things that I was dealing with. But I do want to say this, along the way, I started taking on a lot of characteristics, ideas, perspectives, ideologies that played against me, and it misrepresented me, and I picked up drugs and alcohol, and that didn't play a part either. So carrying this weight alone is not something that you was designed to do. Even though especially me, I feel safe being alone, and even now along my journey, my healing journey, like, I still prioritize that space for self. Like, it's so important, and just being able to communicate with self and just giving myself time to actually think and analyze the things that I'm dealing and primarily feeling. So journaling helped me out with being able to identify with my emotions and transmute them into something that's way more beneficial. Once I see it from all sides, it's time to, move on past that feeling. But I haven't been able to do that in the past because I was dealing with something that, even though I thought I had control and I could possibly, maybe get money or find the next relationship or drink the next beer, you know what I mean? There was really no way out. And I highly recommend getting professional help or reaching out to a close family member or friend, somebody that you can communicate with, somebody that's not going to judge you and put you down. But at the same time, we have to do the work ourselves. We have to be willing to want to heal. And because I was willing to heal along the way, even though I'm still going through these experiences, right? I had to get to a point where I was willing to accept the part that needed healing, and that was identifying self and, like, real deal, like, being able to judge and analyze self, because that's something that, think about it. You came from abuse and childhood abuse, and just so much of just lost stuff and traumatic experiences that you it's almost. I didn't, to be honest. I just learned that your body actually give off when you depressed and anxiety, it actually gives off a pretty good enzyme, good dopamine for your body. So it almost felt good to be depressed and anxious and alone, and once I became willing and had to do the ultimate, like, look in the mirror and face myself, like, that was the toughest part, because I went from, people viewing people as judgmental and viewing people as, just lost and just blind to my struggle. But all in reality, I was just looking from my perspective outward and not taking in the effects that, my character and lack thereof was having on other people. So I do want to apologize to anybody that I may have bled on, and if you had a bad experience with me during the times of me being lost in my brokenness, I humbly ask you to forgive me. More importantly, I pray that you can find it within your heart to heal. I pray that God is shining His light on you and the angels guide you through your healing process. And I hope that you can forgive me for not being the man that I truly was capable of being, whether you was a family, friend, a lover, or whatever, however we came in contact, amen, but, all love and peace to the free world. But, everything is not perfect. But when I started to heal, I started to see so much, and not just in the world, but within myself. A lot of my artistic capabilities, whether it was, playing the bass guitar, to learning the acoustic guitar, learning French, learning Haitian Creole, learning Arabic, so much stuff started to come by so easy, because that weight that I've been walking around with, of feeling misunderstood and feeling just alone, and the answer was me, the key was me. And it sounds borderline narcissistic and it sounds a bit selfish, but the truth is, like, I had to find God in order to find myself, and I had to find God within myself, and to understand that I wasn't created to suffer, though I was definitely created to go through these phases. Like Job, we have to be tested in order to get back to where we came from, like a raindrop that evaporates over the ocean, and you go through the process of negative ions, positive ions rising up, heat in the right places, and the rain gonna come down. But eventually, after it precipitates, it's gonna evaporate, and it's gonna continue to go through that process of precipitation and evaporation until it meets that goes and makes it back to that large body that it came from, which I feel like is the Almighty Spirit, Yahweh, Jehovah, God, whatever you want to call him, Ra, so. On one thing for sure, we all identify with the same God, and that's the goal, man, is to get back and go through this learning process of rising and falling, the ever flow of life. And now I'm understanding till I understand, like, the true purpose is growth, to develop within your spirit. We have 6 senses, but while I was living in my lostness, like, I prioritize the top 5 senses, and all of that has to do with, like, desire. All that have to do with just, like, wanting to see, feel, taste, smell, hear, all of that stuff, man. But when I started to walk in my 6th sense, like in my spirit, in my intuition, and like really starting to identify with myself and my emotions and what ticks me and what don't, what motivates me and what drains my energy, like, I'm real deal, like, seeing just how great I was made, and early in my life I was derived of that awareness, even the opportunity to communicate my emotions. That's why it's so important for us to give our kids voices, like, to hear them out. Allow a kid to express how they feel to you. Like, you have to give them a voice. I was absent of a lot of love that I needed, so that made me emotionally codependent to where I wanted to be loved, and that led me to being like a baby, but as a grown man, like, walking around like this. So it was a strain not only on me, but in my relationships and potential relationships and friendships. And that led to me wanting what I was supposed to get in home. I wanted from the world. So that led me to understanding till I understand how the world was. So Even so, that led me to being hyper vigilant, whether it was somebody I was dating or whether it was a friend, or a potential friend, or whatever. It was, those things as a man, you know, we try to cloak, or we want to hide because we're imperfect and we don't want to seem weak and vulnerable. But the best thing that I ever did was really turn around and put on them gloves and roll up them sleeves and conquer my shadow. Like, and it's a still work right now. It's a work in process. Like, I'm still dealing with my ego, and I know, like, my darkness was big then, my light is big now, and I'm so loving and forgiving and so patient. But even I have to remind myself that we all have the light and the darkness in us. It depends on what wolf you feed and what force is really primarily ruling your life. You have the freedom of choice. You've been given that. So, my darkness is as big as my light. My light is as big as my darkness. I've learned to prioritize the importance of the situation, analyzing the situation. Like, my energy is big, so energy is emotion. So my emotions are big. So when I'm happy, I'm extremely happy. When I'm sad, I'm extremely sad. When I'm confused or nervous, like, it's there. And these are some of the traits that I'm kind of used to dealing with because I dealt with social anxiety for so long. Like, as a kid, I'm gonna digress away from that because, a lot of times that stuff was not meant to break you. But for those who you had that experience with, their intentions can't be negated. Like, it is what it is. But understanding that God didn't send me here to suffer relieve me of so much pain and stress, knowing that somebody has already made that sacrifice and atone for me to be able to even be in tune with the spiritual realm. That freed me as well. And understanding that a lot of this fear that I've had in me and a lot of this overly wanting to be loved and accepted came from the disconnection with my family at an early age and being judged and put down by the ones that were close to me. So understand the fact that kids are like wet concrete. What falls on them leaves a lasting impression. And that is why now, even I, who have all men as kids, you have to understand that even I'm understanding this fact that I didn't know because I didn't learn this through experience. So it's definitely going to be on you. If you want to heal, you want to grow, you want to learn something new, you gotta, like, can't just be hurting for nothing. You can't just be out here just depressed for nothing and just giving off these low vibrations and feeding these low vibrational energies. Granted, taking us as spiritual star seeds, we had to lower our vibration to even enter this spiritual realm. But the goal is to raise to the highest point that you can before you transition back to where you came from. And now I'm overstanding the fact that a lot of the social anxiety I had was because I was overwhelmed by the amount of energy out there, and I wasn't protecting my energy by cultivating and designing my specific energy. So, like, now I'm walking in the light as Ra, peace to the free world. Now I'm being able to show light everywhere. And another reason why I wear this Ankh, right, is because I am one of the Anku, which is called a light bearer. All right, it's my story similar to Ra, being betrayed and going through the darkness and overcoming the darkness. Now I have a dish over my head. You feel me? And now I understand and identify with my ancestors and really still, you're right, atoning for things that I feel like I have to put more energy and positivity out to match the amount of negativity and confusion that I've sown into the world. Because karma is real. You can't pause it. You can't negotiate it with it. You can't bargain like karma. But karma is not all bad. You have good karma too. So this is the yin and yang, the ebb and flow of life. You give and you receive. This is infinity. So you have to understand that all things come in a circle. So what I give out is going to be magnetized by the world, Mother Earth, the feminine essence, right? It's going to come pay you. So, my goal now is to put out more light into the world as the Anku. I am the Anku, a light bearer. I had to come from the darkness, and you are not disqualified just because you was born in the darkness or fell into the darkness. You're disqualified when you continue to make excuses and refuse to put forth the effort to grow. So when times run out, you've been given the choice and the ample amount of time to choose. So, and all in all, I want y'all to know that just because you're going through something, you ain't at your best. You might be broke right now. You might be going through self-acceptance, self-love, whatever it is you're going through, bro. I want to remind you that this is a journey, bro. And guess what? It gets even better, bro. Like, all you have to do is want to heal. Like, the pain is not what wanted me to heal. The pain that I cause on other people, unfortunately, not what made me want to heal. You know what made me want to heal? To start helping others, because I know how I felt when I felt judged, confused, misused, abused, mentally, emotionally, financially, betrayed. And then I really understand that it's not even all about me. It's other people out here suffering, and I needed people to talk to, and I needed somebody to be there for me. I needed somebody to just care enough to give me a bottle of water. I just needed somebody to just say, hey, I'm proud of you. Or I needed somebody to call and say, hey, how are you doing? How was your day? How was everything? How was your emotional state? When is the last person actually ever called you out of nowhere and said, hey, I just thought about you today, man. I want to know how you doing, and I just want you to know that I'm proud of you. You know what? Let's get together, man. Let's talk or something. So I understand that a lot of our struggles are different, but the journey is the same, man. We all trying to get back to the big body and be stronger than we were when we came in. So, man, I just want to resonate to all my kings and queens that are currently on this journey, and those that are trying to heal. Like, I understand like how it feels to be alone, how it feels to feel broken, how it feels to feel unworthy. And I'm continuing to make myself as an example for those of y'all who want to find redemption, but not redemption in the world, not redemption from nobody, but from yourself, your ancestors, and God, bro. You got your spiritual team, and I went so long alone and didn't know what I had spiritually that was really, really around me. Like, many fell to my left and my right, but none fell on me. And when God said that, that was a promise, man, in simple words, but powerful, man. So, man, much love, light to all of you guys, and understand, man, this thing is about progression, not perfection. Take your days one at a time, and you have to wake up. And don't put yourself in debt to other people's emotions and plans. And how do you feel today? What are your goals today? What do you want to conquer today? How do you want to feel today? That's important, man. So I just want to let you know you're not alone. You're not alone. There's a lot of us still fighting, bro. So put your crown back on your head, man. Absolutely. Peace to the free world, man. Hotel. I'm Ra.